My name is Becky Bolito, and I am the post-secondary counselor at Vernon Hills High School. With me today is Myra Suerte, and she is the director of Midwest Admission for Marist University. And she is here to talk from the college admissions perspective when talking about the college search. And so she provides a unique insight that I think everyone will benefit from and enjoy. Let's see here. Just so everyone knows, we are recording this presentation and I will be emailing this to all junior and sophomore families. Like I said, it's really geared towards the class of 2027 specifically, but we also know that there are sophomores and sophomore parents that are eager to get some of this information. So that's why we invited you to attend if it worked with your schedule. All right, so tonight, what we are going to cover, we're going to talk a lot about your options um, in terms of college after high school graduation. We know that there are a lot of options for life after Vernon Hills High School. The majority of Vernon Hills High School students are attending either 2-year or 4-year institutions, and that's going to be the focus tonight. But also know that we are always here to help for students that are not sure if college is in their future and want to know more about trades, apprenticeships, the military, etc. We are also going to talk about admissions testing, the SAT and ACT. I'm going to provide you with just lists of resources and places you can use for research. This slideshow will have a lot of hyperlinks that once I have the recording ready, I will also send out these slides that will allow you to check out all of the resources that I have linked in the slideshow. We'll do a little preview of next steps for next semester through senior year, talk about some of our upcoming programs that could help you out, and then we'll have a little time for Q&A. So if you have a question during our presentation, go ahead and enter that into the Q&A. We'll try and answer questions like when we're not presenting ourselves, but if we're unable to manage everything, we'll definitely take a glance at the end of the presentation and get to as many questions as we're able to. So, all right. Before we get started, I am going to have everyone answer 4 questions that were just posed to you and as a poll, and just to get a gauge of where everyone is at in the college search process. Let's see. Feel like hopefully you can see this poll. Okay, yes. Okay, perfect. So we'll just take a quick minute or two to see where everyone's at with this process. I expect it to be very, very varied. All right, 30 more seconds. All righty. So let's take a look at what everyone had to say. Where are you in your college search process? We have about 40% where you haven't started, and 60% that maybe you have started researching colleges and maybe developing some sort of list as to where you might apply or maybe places you want to visit. I just want to say that no matter where you are on that range of readiness here, now is a good time to get started, juniors. Like, you're not behind, you still have lots of time to do all of this. And so that's why we scheduled this webinar for this time of year for juniors, because now is a great time to start thinking about getting serious with post-secondary planning. For whether or not you visited a college campus in person, it's split pretty evenly, a little bit more said yes. I think the best thing to do on college campuses is to take official tours whenever possible, but like any sort of trip to a college campus, even if it was like a stop through on the way to your final destination, can be helpful. And then I put, what about the college planning process is currently causing you the most anxiety? I realize that can shift around and there's a lot of different things that can cause anxiety. So I just listed a few options and researching colleges, it looks like, and paying for college were, the top two concerns. And we will address both of those things tonight. And the good news is you have a lot of resources. And if you don't know what those resources are, you just reach out to me, to your counselor, and we will connect you with the correct resource. And then the best fast food chain listed was Chipotle. So that was interesting. Portillo's was a good runner-up, though. Yeah. All right. So, Myra, I'm gonna let you get started. Let me make sure. Okay. So, yes, Myra, I'm gonna turn it over to you as you talk about like finding the correct fit when doing the college search. If I am having technical difficulties and need to advance the slide, just let me know. I'm going to turn off my camera though.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As it was mentioned, my name is Myra Suerte, and I am the Director of Midwest Admission for Marist University, which is located in Poughkeepsie, New York, and in Florence, Italy. I am regionally based here in the Chicagoland area and work with students from Vernon Hills High School. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to talk a little bit more about finding your fit. And I just want to mention that it's coming from an admissions counselor perspective, right? And so, students, as you begin the college search process, it's important for you to remain active in high school and to perform well during your junior year. If we have some sophomores on the webinar tonight, it's important for you to do well as well, and for you to start communicating with your teachers, your school counselors, your family members, and admissions counselors about your search process. I've worked with many students and families who have shared with me in the past that this process can be very overwhelming, and there are some parts that can be stressful, but I'm here to tell you that the whole process does not have to be. There are some parts of the process that are fun and exciting, and one of the most exciting moments is when you receive your first admission decision, right? And so when you're starting to think about fit, I think about fit in three different types. I think about it in academic fit, social fit, and financial fit. And we can go to the next slide. And one of the really great visuals, I'm a visual learner, and so I think that a Venn diagram is a really great visual for you to see how all these three types intersect with one another and how they are a relationship with one another. So when finding an institution, you want to make sure that you are addressing all three fits. And what that means is making sure that an institution is financially attainable, right? It's not too early to start talking about money. I know it's not an easy conversation to have when you're thinking about finances. We all know that pursuing a post-secondary degree is expensive, but it's important for you to find an institution that's reasonable and that's a good financial fit for you. And one of the resources I always share with my junior families is to start to think about a net price calculator. All institutions have a net price calculator on their website that you can use to type in your credentials, and you can see the net price of what the cost is going to be for that particular institution that you are researching at the time. The other thing that I would encourage you to do at this time too, besides having the conversation about finances, is familiarize yourself with vocabulary terms, right? So when you're thinking about the cost of attendance, that includes bill costs and non-bill costs. Bill costs include tuition, room and board, and additional fees like a health fee, a technology fee. Some institutions have an orientation fee or even an environmental sustainability fee. These are all known as bill costs because the institution is billing you for it. Then there are non-bill costs that include your books, your supplies, transportation, any personal items that you may need. And so when thinking about the cost of attendance, you have to take into consideration not only bill costs, but non-bill costs too. When you are all seniors, you will be asked to file the free application for federal student aid, also known as the FAFSA. And if you're not eligible for the FAFSA, you can also file the Illinois Alternative Application. The determine need and if you're eligible for need-based aid at that institution level. But those are things that you do not need to stress about at this moment. But it's something to take into consideration if finances is something you're considering when choosing an institution that's a good fit. Program of study. Some of you may not know what you want to study, and that's okay. Please do not stress out if you have no idea what you want to study or if you have multiple areas that you're exploring right now. That's the what you have to do right now. Explore your options, right? And as you start to look at different institutions, you want to make sure that they have a wide variety of academic interests that are available to you. And if you're someone who already knows what they want to study, that's great too. So just be mindful as you start researching institutions that you may not know what you want to study, or you may know what you want to study, but you also might be someone that you are on a college campus and you decide to switch your mind. So as you start researching schools, just make there are a lot of options on there and you find something that you're passionate about, right? And one of the things that I always encourage you to do is, again, go on a website, click, there's usually an academics tab, and you can see all the programs that they offer. You also want to find a place that feels like home. You want your home away from home, right? And you want to find a community that feels like a family. It's truly a hallmark moment when you step foot on a campus and you get those butterfly feelings. You have to listen to that gut, and you're gonna be able to feel those feelings or those emotions tied to the campus once you are visiting a campus. So just make sure you find a place that seen and that you matter. You want to make sure you're your unapologetic self, and it's a two-way street, right? An institution is going to be offering you all these opportunities, but they're also going to learn from you as an individual. And if there's one takeaway that I want you to get out of this slide, is that any institution would be lucky to have you as a student. So when thinking about factors to consider, right? There's a lot of factors to consider when finding a good fit for you. And you'll notice that they're categorized in the three different tiers, right? Academic, social, and financial fit are always going to be in the back of your mind. And it's a really great way to, again, visualize. Think about that Venn diagram when you're starting to visit schools. And when you start visiting schools, just know that your factors may be different than your friends or even your parents. So just be mindful that take some time to reflect and figure out what's important to you. I'm not going to talk about every single bullet point on this slide, but I am going to mention a few of them that I think you should start thinking about right now as a junior. One that I think about right away is location, right? Do you want to go to school in an urban setting, in a rural setting? Maybe you want something like Vernon Hills, suburban. Are you hoping to stay in state or out of state? Do you want a private school versus a public school? Those are the things you can start exploring and thinking about of the type of environment that you are going to thrive as a student. Maybe you're someone who best learns in a small class size, or maybe you're someone who wants a big lecture hall, like at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign that has 35,000 plus students, or maybe you're thinking a little smaller, like a Lake Forest College that has about 1,800 undergraduate students. You're going to start to figure out what's important to you and where you see yourself succeeding, right? You also want to be mindful again with your academics. Yes, you want to make sure that they have your major or minor, but you also want to make sure that the academic support is there for you. What are their tutoring options? Do faculty have office hours? Do you want to participate in an honors program or do you want to study abroad experience? Those are some of the things that you should start thinking about as you start visiting campus. And as you start to have interactions with admissions counselors like myself, it's important to ask what their financial aid packages looks like. And I think the most common question that I get from students right away is, do you have scholarships? And what are their ranges? Or what GPA or test score do I need to have to get a certain scholarship? You can also ask about additional scholarships that are available. Like maybe you're someone who's very active in theater or in music, and maybe you want to think about a music scholarship or a theater scholarship. Those are the type of things that you should start thinking about as you start to create that list. And you're probably trying to figure out like, oh my gosh, this is a lot to take in, right? Where do I start? How do I even begin the process as a junior? And the next slide is a perfect example of how to begin that process.
Yes, thanks, Myra. I am going to show a short little clip from a conversation between a widely known and respected author named Jeffrey Selingo. He's very well known as a higher ed journalist. And one of the things that I try and emphasize with students and families is a lot of times we hear about the same colleges over and over again, whether it's because of their low acceptance rate or because of their football championships. And really, there's so many good colleges out there that are looking to admit students. I think a lot of times students are really worried that their chances of getting accepted to school are low. And in fact, most colleges want to admit students. And so I thought this provided a good perspective. So this is a conversation between Jeff Selingo and Frank Bruni.
So if I am the parent of a high school student beginning junior year, or I'm a high school student beginning junior year, I am now turning my attention, because the Lord knows I can't wait till senior year, toward where I might apply to college. Take me through, maybe this is your kid, it's your kid who's beginning his or her junior year. Take me through the first 5 things that student should do to do this the right way and to end up at the right school.
Well, the first thing is let's stop putting names on a list. I think in many ways, students start the college search almost in the middle of it by starting to put names they recognize from the ticker on the bottom of ESPN on Saturdays, names they hear in their neighborhood, stickers they see on the back of cars. By the way, names they see on Naviance and Score. Many high schools out there use this software in their high school counseling offices. And the most popular feature of this software are these scattergrams, which you will say, okay, here's my SAT or ACT score, here's my GPA, let me know where people from my previous students from my high school got in or got waitlisted or got rejected. Research has shown that those programs actually narrow the field of vision for most students. And so as a result, we start out by thinking there are only 30 or 35 schools, which by the way, everybody in your high school and your community is also applying to. So I always encourage people, the first thing you should do within an hour or 2 hours of your home, most likely, I live in the suburbs of DC, I could go to the University of Maryland and see what a big public flagship is like. I could go down to Georgetown or George Washington and see what an urban private institution is like. I could go a couple hours north. I could go to Dickinson College. I could go to Franklin and Marshall College and see what a more rural liberal arts college is like. Get a feel for what these different types of institutions are like before you even think about their names. You might say, well, I have no intention of going to the University of Maryland. It's not about that. I understand schools are distinctive, but I've been on hundreds of campuses in my 25 years of covering higher ed. A public flagship, similar, right? Different colors, different mascots, different sizes, but they do have a with faculty members. So think a little bit about how do you thrive in high school and how that matches to a college that you might be considering. Think about major if you do have a major idea. And I always tell people you don't need to know what you want to do. I have a 16-year-old at home. She's very concerned that she doesn't know what she wants to do. That's all fine and good. It's okay. Most of us don't even know what we want to do 30 or 40 years later. So there you want to look at places where you're going to be able to get into a college that has a variety of majors that you don't, a lot of colleges now are having you pick a major at the point of application. And that sometimes worries students that's the reason they have to have a major. So look at places that have a variety of majors where you're able to transfer. So those are the first couple of things to do, particularly that junior year. But the biggest one, Frank, is let's not start putting the names on that list immediately. Think about what you want out of the experience. Think about the types of places that you like first before you start putting those names.
So if
Goodness.
I am the parent.
Okay. Myra, can you come back on? Okay. All right. So I just also wanted to share that there is going to be an upcoming virtual event hosted by the GPS Parent series, and that will be December 10th. And they have two different times, and the link to register is going to be in the slideshow. So I'll make sure that that's active and I get that to you in plenty of time in case you're interested in hearing more of what Jeff Slingo has to say. His book's premise is basically like, we have this term dream school, but really a dream school should be the school that's the best fit for you, which is what Myra's been talking about. And I will go to the next slide for you, Myra.
Thank you. So one of the things that I really love about what was just shared in that clip was visiting schools that are near you, right? Even if they're not necessarily on your list, or maybe you're a student and family who is looking to go out of state, but it doesn't hurt to visit those schools near us so that you are able to start to picture yourself either at an urban setting or a rural setting, or again, a suburban setting. So take some time to visit private, public, large schools, small schools to kind of figure out what's best for you, right? And I also want to mention that visits are going to look very differently. So there's a standard visit where you can do a campus tour and get an information session, but there are also large scale type of events where they're like open houses that happen on the weekends where you can hear from the faculty, you can hear from current students, and there's just more activity going around. Or you can choose to do a virtual visit. Please don't discredit the virtual visit. Yes, there are virtual campus tours that you can see on their website, but we also offer virtual visits where you can learn from a specific program that we offer on our campus. Or maybe you're interested in learning a little bit more about study abroad, or maybe you're hoping to learn a little bit more about research. Those are the type of programs that you can also visit virtually if you're curious to learn a little bit more. I also want to encourage you to interact with intention, right? connect with us. We're not scary people. We certainly want to be able to provide you with the skills and the tools to be able to find a good fit for you. We want to answer your questions, right? And if you don't know who your admissions counselor is, that's nothing that you should be worried about. You could easily just call the admissions office and share that you're a student from Vernon Hills High School and you're curious to know who your admissions counselor is. We want you to develop that relationship with us because we're your advocates. And believe it or not, some of us are the ones reading your application. And so you certainly want to get to know us because we can let you know what that review process looks like. And every institution is going to be different in their review process. So certainly connect with your admissions and counselors to make sure your questions are addressed. And decide what's important to you, right? It's kind of similar to going back to those factors and trying to take some time to reflect. And you may be someone who likes to write down all the notes. Maybe you're someone who prefers to go on a walk and think out loud. Or maybe you do want to talk with one of your family members and chat about what's important to you and what you're looking at. So start to create that list first before you start to create a list of the schools that you are thinking of applying to. And research is so important. Research is going to look differently. It's going to be going on the institution's websites. It's going to be going to your high school visits when admissions counselors come and see you. It's going to college fairs. It's having conversations with Miss Bolito. It's having conversations with your teachers, maybe alumni from the schools that you're considering. So there are just so many different ways that you can research a school and then to start to create that list. And I will mention that your list is going to change. You may have a list right now, or you may start one tomorrow, and in 3 to 4 months, that list can also change.
Myra, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm going to try and get back into full screen mode. So I'm just going to stop sharing real quick. I don't
Yes.
know what command I hit that changed my view. Sorry, everyone. Just 1 second.
So
Okay. Are we good? Okay.
We're
Sorry about that. Okay.
Technology is not always our friend, everyone. So thank you for your patience. And the last thing that I will share is these are just some questions that are common questions that I get asked quite often from admissions counselors, from students and their families. That if you're someone who is unsure what questions to ask, these are really great starting questions that you can ask me at a college fair or if you're on the phone with an admissions counselor, or if you're visiting a campus, I think it's important for you to come prepared. And when you're interacting with us, right? It's again interacting with intention, with purpose, to make sure that you are getting all the answers that you need. And the process, again, can be overwhelming. It can sometimes be intimidating. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, right? And we were all in your shoes at one point, and we love to talk about admissions and even our own experiences. So don't ever be afraid to ask us what our experience was like, because we can help you navigate that information. So the other thing that I will also leave you with is that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So take your time, and the fact that you're here tonight is awesome. So I applaud you for being here to learn about a little bit more about finding your fit and the resources that are available to you at Vernon Hills High School. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Ms. Valito to continue on the presentation.
Alrighty. Thanks, Myra. Alrighty. So let's talk about the foundation school. So, the one non-negotiable in terms of creating the list of colleges that you are going to apply to, every student needs to have a foundation school on their list. This means it's a college or university where you know you would be admitted, where you know financially it's at a comfortable place for the family, and that you would be happy there. There are lots and lots of colleges out there that can meet that requirement. So if you feel like this is a really hard school to find for you, like you have a lot of reach schools or maybe target schools that sound good, please come talk to me. We can find you some options. We try to stay away from the term like safety school because it has a less than connotation, right? And your foundation school, a lot of students may just apply to only one or two schools because they're so thrilled with the option that is their foundation school. For some students, the foundation school is going to be, College of Lake County or another community college. It might be one of our in-state public institutions, or it could be a private institution where students feel confident that they're going to get a decent amount of scholarship money. So that can look different for every student, but the one thing that everyone needs is a foundation school on their list. So students often ask me how many schools they should apply to, and there is no magic number. I say that a healthy list could consist of 1 to 9 schools. Once you start going past 9, the process becomes very work intensive and expensive. And the more colleges you add to the list, the more essays you have to write, the more materials you have to track. And it's just hard to do more than 10 applications well. So that's why I tell students if they're having a hard time narrowing it down to 9, like come talk to me because maybe you haven't identified so much what you're looking for. And in fact, you are just going based off some names that you've heard along the way. What's interesting is that, now the Common App, you'll hear us talking about that. It's an application accepted by over 1,000 colleges. With the Common App being so popular, the number of applications has really increased in terms of the Vernon Hills senior class average. So the class of 2025 had the highest number of average applications at 8. What I think like anecdotally that really looks like is we had a lot of students that hover between like 5 and 7 schools, but then we have some students that maybe are applying to some really specialty programs and they, get even close to like 20 applications. And so that average is 8, but I would say anecdotally, a lot of students are hovering around 5 to 7. And students always say like, is it bad if I only have, 2 or 3 schools on my list that I'm applying to? And that is not a bad thing at all. If a student knows that they have one school that they would be excited to attend, that they can afford, and that they would get accepted, then, technically we have students every year who just apply to one school and they're done. So for as much as the application process can be stressful, for some students, it frankly isn't, as intense of an experience. And a lot of that can have to do with just the sheer amount of applications you choose to take on. Okay, so standardized testing. This is a topic that is ever changing, and it's always a big stressor for good test takers and students who did not thrive in that scenario, and for parents because there's so much information out there. We are going to have a webinar led by Compass Education Group. Our friends Eric Anderson, our friend Eric Anderson there is going to be presenting the state of college admissions and try and put some of all to put some of this testing terminology into layman's terms and to talk through some of the changes and make sure that we're all up to date on what's going on in the testing world. So briefly, juniors in the spring, you will be taking the ACT on April 7th. That's during the school day. There's nothing you need to do to register for that. The school automatically registers you for that. If you get accommodations when testing, the school takes care of that for you. It will be, and this is where some of the like changes and differences appear. It will be a digital ACT. They recently started making the science section optional when taking the ACT for the state of Illinois because it's our state test. Every junior on this test will be taking the ACT with science and with the writing portion. Um, you have to take this ACT. It's a graduation requirement. So even if you say like, oh, I took, the ACT in February, do I still need to take it? Yes, this is the one that you have to take. And if you are thinking about maybe sitting for the test more than once, so beyond just the April 7th, you want to look at those registration deadlines and those testing dates early. The seats at local testing sites go quickly. And so if you want to be assured you're not going to have to travel too far to take the test, it's just better to start to pay for that and to get it on your calendar and register. And you just do that on each test website. Okay, and so yes, so we're gonna on March 11th have that webinar. So put that down as a save the date. Our webinar in March will cover this in more detail. And we did have the same webinar last year. So junior parents, if you're thinking like you want this information sooner, we did have this presentation last year, and I can send you the link to that presentation if you can't find it on our website. For testing tips, there's the SAT and the ACT, and there's no way for families to predict which test their student will do better on. Really, the suggestion by Compass is to try both assessments. So, sophomores, you're going to take a PSAT in the spring. Juniors, you took the PSAT 10 last spring. Some of you may have taken the PSAT this fall of junior year. Otherwise, you took the practice ACT. And the reason that they suggest trying both of these is just to see, like, are you performing similarly? If so, choose the one that you like better and only focus on that. Colleges will accept the ACT or SAT. They don't have a preference. And so if you don't need to prep for both tests, you should just practice one of each and then focus on one. That's like the ideal scenario. But know that every student in Illinois will be taking an ACT this spring. A lot of colleges, will will offer you the option of sending in test scores with your application. It's called applying test optional. And a lot of that test optional movement exploded with COVID when students couldn't actually physically take the test. The testing sites were shut down, and a lot of schools have kept their test optional policies. I link on this slide to fairtest.org, which lists all of the colleges and their testing policies. There are some schools that are going back to requiring the tests. So it's good to like double check with your list. But the majority of colleges are still using test optional policies. Because of that, we recommend not listing any colleges on your ACT or SAT to send your score to before you see your score. So there's an option when you sit to take the test, or maybe even like a couple days after you take the test, where you can list some colleges where you want to send your score. And those are free. But because a lot of students end up not submitting scores, that's why we suggest not listing them before you see your results, because there's a very real possibility you may choose to like apply test optional. And if that school has your scores already, that kind of negates that possibility. I have a couple questions. Let me look here. One question is, if science is optional on the ACT, do some schools require it? And this is part of the fun of testing. It looks like most colleges are going to be okay without a science score on the ACT. There are a very small number of colleges where they are encouraging students or requiring students to submit the science test. The Compass Group has compiled a list of those policies, and so I will do my best when I send out a follow-up email on this presentation to direct your attention to that. Let me just make a note to myself. And then another question. Okay, if students have to take the writing portion on April 7th, do they have the option not to send the writing score? You know what? They A lot of colleges don't even ask for official score reports anymore with applications. A lot of colleges are okay with students self-reporting their scores, and it will ask on the Common App, do you want to share your writing score? And a lot of students do not wish to share their writing score, and that's fine. I think there's one college in the nation that still is looking at the writing score, but the writing is actually like kind of obsolete at this point. So it is not something to stress about if you like you don't need to worry about prepping for the writing tests. Your colleges aren't going to look at that anymore. And then let's see, is there a minimum score that you need for the ACT to graduate? Nope, there is no minimum. You just do your best. And a lot of times in terms of like test optional, do you send your score? Do you not send your score to colleges? We'll talk more about that in the beginning of senior year, but essentially you're going to look at your list of colleges, see what their typical average is for submitted test scores, and then make your judgment call after that. I know there's a lot of talk about test prep out there, and there's a wide range of what people are charging for those test prep services. So I just wanted to make sure families knew that there are free resources for ACT and SAT prep, and those will be linked in this slideshow. And then our district is actually hoping, you may have already filled the survey out. This was sent to, I believe, all junior students and parents. It's trying to gather the desire for test prep resources provided by the district. So I put these QR codes in case you happen to have your phone by you while you're watching this webinar. You can go ahead. The one on your left is for students. The one on the right is for parents. You can pull that up and fill it out later. Or when you get the copy of this slideshow, it will also be linked under the students and parent guardian links there. All right. So one of the best things about attending Vernon Hills High School is how many resources are made available to students and families, and that includes a lot of resources for post-secondary planning. At VHHS alone, we have CRC Google Classrooms. So, sophomores, just today, I invited you to join my class of 2028 Google Classroom. Most juniors are already part of my 2027 Google Classroom, and that's just a place where we post announcements and different resources that might be helpful to students along the way. We also have Remind groups. So there's the app Remind that's like a messaging app, and parents and students are both welcome to join. If you have the app, you just can click on join a class, and here are the class codes. When you get the slideshow, if you click on the link where it says class of 2027, that will just bring you to the website where you can join also. We try to send out CRC newsletters about once a month, roughly. Every student has a school counselor they're assigned to, and they are there to be a resource to help students. I'm the, specific post-secondary counselor within the building, but the counselors um, are very well versed in helping students through the college search process, the application process, and students should know that they can always come to a counselor or to me with any questions, and we can connect you with resources if we don't have the answers. If you have a student who receives special services, you also have Liz Wiederzak, who's our transition coordinator, who can help with she meets a lot of times with me and families to talk about the students' plans for after high school. I also linked my YouTube channel here. There's some old videos that, for the most part, still hold up. And so if you wanted to peruse any past subjects, you could go to that YouTube channel. And then I'm linking to, at the last bullet point there, it's a link to our programming calendar, which we've sent out earlier this year in newsletters, but just so that you have it readily available again. It's linked in this slide. School Links is the primary resource the district has invested in terms of all things post-secondary planning. It allows for college and career exploration. It has Vernon Hills High School and District 128 application data. You may have heard in the little clip with Jeff Salingo, he talks about like scattergrams and Naviance and Score. Those are software systems like School Links. We use School Links, and we do have the ability, and I'll show you on this next slide what the scattergrams look like that are visuals of that application data from D128 graduates. You can explore college costs. There's different assessments. Your student has probably already completed several different assessments about their interests or maybe the careers that they're thinking about. And there is the ability for parents to create guardian accounts. And last year we had a webinar on like those guardian accounts and what that looks like from the parent side, and I link to it here. And then there's also a link to creating your guardian accounts. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. If you take a look at the directions, once I send out the slideshow and you have any questions, you can of course reach out and I can help. These are the scattergrams that I was talking about. So right here we have Illinois State University, and it shows students from Vernon Hills High School. You can see you can toggle between school data and district data. When you're on the school data page here, you can toggle between SAT or ACT scores, weighted GPA or regular GPA, unweighted GPA, I should say, and the plot points on the graph are showing you on the right hand side. You can see when you hover over any of those plot points, it's going to give you the specifics of that student who applied to Illinois State University. So the dot that is hovered in this example shows that the student was from the class of 2020. They were accepted, indicated by a green dot. And then it shows you their GPA and test score information. And this is just to give you an idea of whether a school is a foundation school, a target school, or is it a reach school? Colleges definitely evaluate transcripts with the context of the high school in mind, right? So this is the most, instead of just looking at like the average that they post on their individual websites, colleges, will post their average ACTs or their average GPAs, but every high school uses a different GPA system. So it's not always super helpful when trying to convert that to something meaningful with your students' Vernon Hills High School GPA. So that's why this is probably the best tool for figuring out whether a school is a reach, a target, foundation. And yes, I see in the questions here, if you had older students, many years ago, we had Naviance, and then we transitioned from Naviance to Score. And so, if you had older students, there's a good chance they may have used Score as a research tool. Now, many districts in the state of Illinois, including D128, are using School Links, which has all of the same functionality as Score. It actually has a little bit more, but obviously it looks different than the Score graphics. All right. Here are some websites. I'm not going to show them all right now, but I just wanted to make sure that I talked about them briefly. These first two sites under College Search, those are going to have more stats-based information like graduation rate after 6 years, debt, how much average debt students graduate with, et cetera, et cetera. The Big Future and Niche, they are more search engine type websites where you can put in different criteria and get matched or like filter down your list of colleges. And School Links is actually the primary place where I see students doing this. Just we operate in School Links a lot, and their search function allows you to narrow down by a lot of different criteria. And so this link here on this slide is just going to show you how you can use that feature. But honestly, as soon as students get to the College Search page, they don't really need a lot of coaching through how to do it. It's a pretty typical filter process, just like so many other websites. And then Myra mentioned net price calculators when she was talking, and the whole shopping for college process, it's kind of backwards because you're looking at colleges without knowing what the true cost is going to be to your family after maybe academic scholarships or need-based grants. And so that can be really tricky. I've seen students, who are really excited when they get accepted to certain colleges. And then, a couple months later, when they get their financial aid packages, they realize that they were not going to be receiving any sort of aid. It makes that school not an option. But a lot of times you don't know if it's going to be out of your price range unless you apply or do like thorough research. So net price calculators are not a perfect tool, but they're the best tool that colleges offer for predicting how much a college will truly cost you after you put in parent financial information. It may also ask you for student grade information. My Intuition is another website that's similar. It's a little bit more sophisticated. I think there's maybe like 50 colleges that are available on My Intuition. And then I just link here a bunch of other resources related to the financial aspect of college planning. And School Links does have a feature where you can plug in parent financial information in your Guardian account and see that cost comparison. So I linked to the help article there. Students, Myra touched on this, and I want to emphasize, you are 15, 16, 17 years old. Like, no one expects you to know exactly what it is you want to do for the rest of your life. And frankly, like that changes for people all the time. Students have already come to me who applied as engineering majors a couple months ago, and now they've sat through their psychology class for a few months, and their passion has really changed from, maybe not so much engineering and maybe doing a major in psych. So it's okay to not know because even students that say they know, there's a good chance they're going to change their major once they get onto college campuses. But it's always good to be thinking about what your interests are and what your strengths are. And so there's a lot of tools out there. That can just help you with starting to think about that. Okay, so nothing is going to give you a definitive answer. It's not that easy, unfortunately. But like this UIUC Major Explorer and Marquette Major Quiz, like those colleges have created these tools, but they are universal in their helpfulness. So even if those aren't colleges you're considering, like check out, it's just a neat way that you can interact with your interests and what you would be studying as a different major on those two websites. I'll also plug that Ben Rodriguez, who is our director for college and career readiness at the district level, he organizes different career speakers and career treks where it's like a field trip for students. I know they went to a vet clinic recently, and so students that were interested in maybe pursuing veterinary science in the future, they could go on site to a vet clinic and see if, it really was as appealing as they thought it would be. Okay. And then quickly here, I want to give a little overview of things to be thinking about for second semester and moving forward. And this is geared towards juniors, but some of this is obviously still pertinent to sophomores if we have any sophomores on this call. So the first thing that's going to come up, second semester comes up quick, is registration. And juniors, you are registering for your classes for senior year in an individual meeting with your counselor. And that's very intentional because the courses you take senior year are important. We obviously want to make sure that you're meeting your high school graduation requirements, but we also want to make sure that you are taking the classes you need to take to be admissible to colleges. So, for example, every college is going to require 4 years of English, and 4 years of English is actually a high school graduation requirement, so you're covered there. But there are some schools that have unique requirements, like the University of California schools, the public schools, whether it's Cal State schools or UC schools, they currently have a fine arts requirement that's a 1 year fine art in the same area. And so we in Illinois do not have that requirement, and a lot of students don't necessarily have room for fine arts in their schedule without being very intentional. So that would be, something to think about before you register and to see if any of the other colleges that you've maybe had a little interest in have any other unique requirements. It's pretty rare, like pretty standard is just the core classes. World language can sometimes be tricky. Usually, if you have 2 years of a world language, that's going to meet the requirement for any college that requires an international language in the same language for admission. So if you started freshman year in Spanish 2, that counts as 2 years. Even though you only took 1 year at Vernon Hills High School, it's still going to count in the college's eyes as 2 years in the same language. Illinois State University, we have a lot of kids obviously applying there as one of our public institutions. They require either 2 years of the same international language, or that can be subbed out with fine arts classes. University of Illinois, which obviously is one of our larger feeders, they require 2 years of the same language to be admissible to their university. However, 4 years is what's required in order to graduate from University of Illinois. So students who have taken, you know, French 4, Spanish 4 in high school, they have then like met that requirement before stepping foot on that college campus. University of Iowa is another like popular one that students who have 4 years will waive out of that requirement on campus. You should start thinking about like when you want to take your standardized tests and which test you're going to focus on. Um, any chance that you're able to get to a college campus, whether it's when you're on a family trip. I know my family, we have a busy summer schedule with youth sports, and so we don't always get to pick our destination. But a good idea can be to see like, are there colleges around, if you have time together as a family, can you make a point to get on a college campus when it works for your schedule? And even if it's not a school that you would ever want to attend in terms of it being too far away or whatnot, any college visit is better than no college visit. There are lots of virtual college visits out there now on every school's website. I believe they're also embedded in school links. We've had a lot of college fairs this past fall, but there will be a big national college fair at Moraine Valley Community College in March. It's not the closest location, but it's one of like, if you want to go to a large scale college fair, it's probably one of the more convenient ones in terms of second semester. Otherwise, it would mean waiting to the fall, and then there will be closer ones around to Vernon Hills. Um, I love meeting with juniors, and if their parents, trusted adults, want to join, you are more than welcome to. Um, you and I can talk about like your specific questions about college planning, talk about schools you're thinking about, ease any anxieties, hopefully, that you have about all of this stuff. You may need to ask for a teacher recommendation second semester. We'll talk about that more in detail later in the year. It's a good time to start like writing down somewhere, keeping track of all of your activities, clubs, sports, volunteer experiences, et cetera, so that you're ready to put those down on your applications, and then make a plan for the summer. Junior year is tough and it's busy and stressful. And so, make sure that you allot time for rejuvenation and relaxing and family time, but also you think about what else it is that how you could spend your time that's intentional, whether that's getting a part-time job or maybe volunteering or taking a summer school class. Whatever it looks like for you, just put some thought into how you want to spend that time. You're going to continue to narrow down your college lists. And my goal for juniors is that by the time you leave in May, it would be great if you could have like 3 colleges that you're pretty sure 2 to 3 colleges that you're pretty sure you want to apply to. Okay, so research, there's no shortcuts, it's time consuming. And so it might feel like you're not making a lot of progress, but if at the end of junior year, you know of 2 to 3 places you're pretty sure you want to apply to, that's a win. And then when you come back senior year, in August, that's when you should have like your more well-developed, like, okay, these are the schools I know I'm going to apply to. And of course, students add and subtract here and there, but it should be pretty well set by the time you start school in August. I wanted to plug this event that is going to be for sophomore families and junior families. We ran this event a couple years ago, maybe it's been 3 years now. It is called the College Application Case Study Event. It's run by a group of regional admission officers like Myra. She belongs to this group. They're all college admissions counselors who part of this group, and they will take families and students through mock applications. And it's very much like a workshop where you will be reviewing the applications, you will be discussing in small groups, students with a college admission officer, like how they would review the application. And then at the end, you have to like decide, okay, of these four applicants, who are we accepting, who are we denying, who's getting waitlisted. And it's just a really interesting peek behind the scenes into what goes into making admission decisions. And this is a live event. It is not recorded. And so if you can, I know the nights and evenings are super busy, but if you're available, we got really great feedback on this event when we were able to hold it a few years ago. It's something that a lot of area high schools want to host, and there's more want out there than they're able to accommodate. So we feel lucky that they were able to give us this date and time to run this event, and it should be great. And then this is just a very basic senior year timeline just to give you a glance of what it looks like. So this summer, like I said, like think about how you're going to spend your time. Summer's also a good time for like essay brainstorming, college research, doing visits, getting yourself organized before the school year starts and you have all of these applications that you're working on all at once. In August, like I mentioned, you want to come back to school and have your list of schools you want to apply to pretty well formed. October 1st is when the FAFSA becomes available, and we provide a lot of support and resources for families who need help completing the FAFSA or the alternative app for those families that cannot fill out the FAFSA. November 1 is the most popular early action deadline. So usually by November 1, well, by November 2nd, the large majority of the senior class has completed at least one college application. And once students have completed one application, um, it's a lot easier to like get the momentum and to know what you're doing. It's those first ones that can be more tricky. December is when we'll start to advertise more local scholarships that are available. And then from December to March, even into April, is when colleges will be releasing their financial aid award letters. And that's a fair question to ask when you're researching, like, what's your timeline for giving out financial aid award letters? You'll find that a lot of bigger schools, it's going to be more close to that March, April date, but not always. So that's just something to know that like it's very possible you won't have the bottom line financially for each school until the end of March of your student's senior year. And then students have all year. They apply to places in August, September, October. Um, but then they'll hear back whether they're accepted. They'll look at their options. They have until May 1 to make their final decision about where they're going to attend after senior year. And so that is it for my prepared materials. I don't see a ton of questions, but if anyone has a question, go ahead and throw it in there real quick. There is one question asking if we will offer a workshop in the summer, again, for rising seniors who want help with essay writing. And yes, we will offer something. The past couple of years, it's been the Thursday or Friday before the first day of school, but we haven't even been able to meet yet as a calendar committee to solidify that date. And I have to reach out to my contacts. So we don't have a date. But yes, be on the lookout. I will be sending information about summer resources for seniors. And as soon as I have a date, I will send out a save the date for that because I know summer's a busy time. Um, okay, let's see. So November 1, early action deadline. Myra, do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I'm happy to. So,
Thank you.
when it comes to the college admissions process, there's typically three different pathways students can apply to an institution. So, there's an early decision pathway, an early action pathway, regular decision, and rolling admission. So, technically, four different pathways. But to answer your question specifically about early action, so early action is a non-binding pathway, meaning that a student can apply to an institution by November 1st, which is a typical common deadline for many institutions for the early action, and get their admission decision earlier. But you do not have to commit to the institution if they get accepted, right? Versus early decision also tends to have sometimes a November 1 deadline. That deadline also varies depending on institution, but early decision is binding, meaning that you actually have to sign an agreement, like the parent and guardian, and the counselor have to agree that you know that if you get accepted into the institution, you are committing to that institution because it's your top choice. But an early action deadline just means that you're applying by a certain deadline, in this case, November 1, and you'll find your admission decision earlier. Some typically admissions counselors or institutions like to give out that news around the holidays or even in January.
Yes, and I feel very comfortable encouraging students to aim for early action deadlines if a college offers that, that's on your list, because there's no downside. In some cases, colleges will say if you want to be considered for our automatic scholarships, you need to apply by our early action deadline. Early decision is a very personal family decision where you won't accidentally, don't worry, you won't accidentally apply early decision to a college because, like Myra said, there's a contract that you have to sign off on, parents have to sign off on, college has, or counselor has to sign off on. And if you have more questions about that, just feel free to reach out to me. And then we threw around the term FAFSA a lot. But what that stands for is the free application for federal student aid. And it is a graduation requirement in Illinois to either complete the FAFSA or to sign off on an opt-out form we'll provide you senior year saying we're not going to fill out the FAFSA, but we know that we could. It's basically paperwork that's going to take family financials and help colleges determine if they have any institutional aid based on income that the family generates, or the federal government also has some grants that they will provide students depending on family's income. It's also if you plan to take any student loans out, you have to complete the FAFSA in order to qualify for those loans, for the federal loans, I should say. All right. Well, I think that does it. All right, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us. We really appreciate your time, and we hope that you know, this answered some questions. Hopefully didn't, I'm sure it raised a lot of questions also, but hopefully you know that there's lots of support out there for you. And please know that you can always reach out to me personally. And like Myra said, like the college admission counselors are out there wanting to help for their institutions too. Oh, and then one last question was, where will this recording be posted? It will be, I'm going to email it out to all sophomore and junior students and parents. And then hopefully it'll get posted on our website, but I can't say with 100% sure that I'll be able to do that. So, all right, everyone, have a great evening. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Myra, again for your time. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.